Transparently, it took us 3 years to make 3 million, and now it's taken us like 1 year to make 3 million on the low side.
This is Eli Jones. He sold over $6 million in education products online, but he's a rare breed who has sold $3 million in low-ticket automated courses and $3 million in high-ticket programs, as well as $200,000 in subscription, more community-based offers. And in this video, he pulls back the curtains, revealing exactly which models work best in 2024.
Like the core thing, if you want to be successful in any education-based spaces, you have to actually...
He shares how he's now doing $3 million per year with his current offer.
For us, I think one of the reasons we were successful pretty quickly is because...
And some huge mistakes beginning course creators, coaches, and online entrepreneurs make when they start in this space.
So I would say like where a lot of people go wrong is they...
Alrighty, Eli Jones, welcome, man. How are you, dude?
Good to talk with you. We got to chat a little bit before, which is always enjoyable. So glad to be here.
Man. So Eli, you are one of the very few specimen and people inside of our group. You've been an OG Course Creator Pro member. You've been a part of our programs for a long time now. I believe you joined Full-Time Filmmaker, right? Mm-hmm. Parker stuff at the very beginning. You then eventually bought Course Creator Pro. That was like 4 years ago, maybe 5?
Yeah, 2019,
a while ago.
Like 5 years almost.
Yeah. And you are one of our top probably 1% students, right? You've done about $6 million plus in both high tickets, low ticket. You've even dabbled in the kind of membership subscription model before. And so I wanted to have you on today. I want to talk about a big kind of buzz topic that a lot of people are confused about, kind of trying to figure out which route they want to go. And that's the difference between high tickets and mid ticket or low ticket. And I want to talk about the differences today because you are one of the few people who have crushed it in both. You said before this call, you've done about $3 million on the low to mid-ticket space, which is, again, what we have focused primarily on is how to create an online course, how to automate that, and sell that for, under $1,000 for the most part. And you've done about $3 million with that model. And then you've also, though, tried the high-ticket route of charging $5,000 plus for more of in-person coaching, not in-person, but group coaching calls, one-on-one calls, accountability, and we'll talk about that model in a minute. And then you've also done about $200,000 on the subscription route of trying the more membership thing. And so I wanted to have you on today, man, to just kind of talk about the main differences, how you structured all of them, the pros and the cons, what you'd recommend for up-and-coming course creators, and just kind of have a discussion about it, man.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's good timing, too, because I'm like you said, I'm about halfway split between revenue as a low-ticket course seller and then high ticket. I will say high ticket's accelerating a lot faster, so we're going to beat the low ticket side soon. But yeah, we can get into all the details. So where do you want to start?
100%. Yeah, dude. So Real Estate Photographer Pro is the name of your program. Maybe just give me a really quick snapshot of like the last couple of years of selling the online course, going from the low to mid ticket space, and then eventually transitioning into the high tickets. What is it that you're selling? Why has it gotten the amount of success that it has? Maybe some more fundamental parts about how do you sell an online course successfully in the first place? Maybe before we even talk about, how you're going to structure it, the pricing, high ticket versus low ticket, maybe just talk to me in general about Real Estate Photographer Pro and how you've sold $6 million plus in the first place.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I think one of the biggest things that I see more clearly now that I maybe didn't see when I was first starting is, you look at all these people that launch courses or high ticket programs or memberships and they're not successful, and then those that are. And I think obviously there's nuance to why that can happen. Some people are better marketers, some people are not. But I think generally, like the core thing, if you want to be successful in any education-based spaces, you have to actually teach something that works. And it's really hard to sell stuff that doesn't work. And also like unethical too, right? So for us, I think one of the reasons we were successful pretty quickly is because, I launched my course for the first time in late 2019 after having gone through Course Creator Pro, but I'd been shooting real estate media for like 7 years prior to that. So I got really good at what I was actually going to teach, the real estate photography side of things. I built a business that had a team, tens of thousands a month in revenue, in a slow month even with that business. So like I was coming into this having built not as successful. Still a tiny bit, like $1 million a year business, which is what my real estate media company is like a pretty small business. We'll do right around $1 million this year. And it's been pretty consistent since I launched the courses. So it's not a huge business, but it's not a tiny one. But it obviously shows that like what we were teaching worked. So when I had come off the back of that, it was like, okay, whether we launched it in course format, membership, high ticket, whatever, like what we taught worked. Now we've gotten much better because just because you did something doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So we've gotten much better at learning how to make it work for more people. But I think that's kind of the core thing. And then once you teach something that works, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. You can teach a small result, but there needs to be a result, right? And so once you figure out what that result is and you're confident that you can actually help people do that, then it's your marketing, then it's everything else after that. But like, I think that's kind of the starting point. And so, yeah, we launched with a course. I think starting with an online course is a great way to do things. I generally think, and Stockton, you'll have more data than me on this, but I generally think if you're struggling to sell a course, you're going to struggle to sell a membership or a high ticket program. So like you need to learn that whatever model you're in. I'm not saying some aren't better. We make way more money, and I'm sure we'll get into that in our high ticket business. But it's not necessarily the model first. And so, yeah, we started with the course, sold that for a couple of years, late 2019, 2020, 21, 2022. And then in 2023 is when we pivoted really quickly to membership subscription model. So it's been about like a year and a half, a little less doing the high ticket model only. We killed all of our other offers. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm pumped to talk about the numbers. I wanted to really hit on that really fundamental piece first, though, that, and for those of you watching and you're thinking about making an education business or you're struggling with one, everything that we've made, every multi-million, even 8-figure business that we have created has come from the back end of what we already do, right? Full-time filmmaker, my brother Parker Walbeck, he was a big, huge filmmaker, making tons of money, traveling around the world, and had a ginormous YouTube channel. Like, he had that credibility. It's what he actually did to make money. And from that, he was able to teach and become the experts, right? Eli's got an agency. He's actually doing the grunt work of going and taking photos of real estate properties, selling those, and he's doing $1 million a year with that business. So he has the credibility and the content, right? Because that just feeds everything. It's like, I'm just teaching you guys what I'm doing. I just made, 30, 40, 50K this month. Let me show you how I did that. It's just reporting. It's showing people, documenting what you're doing. And it's very easy to just teach that to people and get those results versus trying to force things. But this applies to anything. It doesn't have to be a make money online offer. Some people think, well, I don't teach people how to make money. It's like, I got a guy who's a pianist and he's done, I think, over $2.5 million since he launched. No money, there's nothing monetarily driven there, but he has results. He's actually a world-renowned pianist. And so he's been doing the thing, right? He's been a pianist for 25 years and he's just really, really good. And so obviously, like, I know it's a basic thing, but you have to have the credibility and the results to actually become the teacher. Otherwise, you really are an imposter. But aside from that, it like literally creates the marketing material. It creates the content for you. You're just doing the thing you're teaching and it helps you to get results. And then obviously doing it for yourself is different from doing it for other people, not doing it for other people, but helping them to do it for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, I mean, I think I could have had a successful, the same business I have now, even if my real estate media business had only made $100,000 a year. Like, we're not saying you have to become like a world-renowned pianist or have like a great real estate media company. You just need to have something that actually gets results. And I think a lot of people are looking for like a shortcut when it comes to like an education product as an easy way to make money. And it is if you have something to teach, but you don't have to have like the craziest thing. So I would say like where a lot of people go wrong is they try to go too broad. So like, if you've only done $100,000 a year, you can't teach someone how to get to $200,000 a year. But plenty of people aren't even thinking about, like, when I help, the average person that we help at Real Estate Photographer Pro is doing $0 a month, and we're trying to get them to $5,000 a month. Like, none of what I built on the big end matters. Like, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the startup stage. So you don't want to get discouraged thinking, I have to go do crazy stuff first. But on the same front, you like want to be able to get someone a result of some kind that is valuable to them. And I think that's like the base prerequisite.
100%. Yeah, it's a great point, right? It's like people think also in too big of scales. It's like, once I'm doing this amount of money or results, then I can be credible. Yeah. And it's like you're just making up these random expectations, and people really
one step ahead meaningfully.
Yeah, if you're doing 10K a month, is that super, super credible? Maybe not, but you are doing it, and people want to make 4K a month doing this. So it's like you can teach that, But so let's talk, man, about the differences. I've made a graph here.
Which I love, by the way. For everybody watching this, I'm sure you have access to this graph. Very accurate. Just having done all of them, there's nothing I disagree with. So it's good stuff.
So I put this together because this is my perspective, having done all 3 of these models as well. There are 3 models. I've kind of added the middle one option here of what we are actually doing right now. And I kind of want to have you on today, Levi, to talk about these differences. You having done both, done $3 million with a low ticket, done $3 million plus with a high ticket. You've done 200K with the subscription side of things. You didn't find as much success there, which we'll talk about. But I kind of want to just kind of go off of this graph here of your general perspective and opinions on the difference between low ticket and high ticket, because one thing that a lot of my audience is inundated with, right, is you have to pick one and go really hard on it, or only one works and nothing else will ever work. And it's kind of this extreme position that marketers take. And to be quite frank, they take it because
They want to sell something. Yeah.
they want to sell you something, right? If something's dead, something has to be the real way to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so it is a marketing tactic that is used. And I just want to kind of get your balanced opinion on the pros and the cons, because you've killed it with both, right? You don't have a biased opinion on this to where it's like you've made 10 million with high ticket and, just a couple
Yeah.
100,000 with low ticket. And so you're obviously going to talk about high ticket, but you've done both and they've both worked for you. And because of that, I just want to kind of get your general thoughts on, you look at this graph right here, and what would you say, having done both, is the main difference between the low ticket and the high ticket?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that may be less likely for someone to weigh is what it's going to take in terms of your time, staff, and costs, other stuff like that. So, transparently, we think our high ticket business is going to be, it's much bigger than our low ticket business now. I mean, it took us 3 years to make 3 million, and now it's taken us like 1 year to make 3 million on the low side. As we close out this year. So our high ticket business is bigger, but there's a lot more that goes into it. So we have a team right now, it's 23 full-time people. And it is a lot more of like a business, and it's not necessarily a lifestyle business, at least with the way I currently run it. So if you're getting into this and you're like, Eli, I want to make some money, I want to have more time freedom and, kind of do the like Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week side of things. Not saying you can't with high ticket, probably not the business model to go after. If you want to build like the biggest business you possibly can, and you're willing to put in a lot of work and learn management and have big cost and potentially a lot more stress, different things like that, I mean, you're probably going to want to go high ticket. Like I do think it is, with all things being equal, probably easier is not the right word. There is a bigger ceiling, I think, for more people in high ticket. But if you can't make a course work, you're not gonna be able to make membership work, and you're probably not gonna be able to make high ticket work. It's just to what extent. So yeah, I mean, generally I would really weigh those options on that graph that you put together. I mean, I think those are like very accurate. It's a beast of a business now. I mean, it's a big team, more to it.
So you've got the staff. That's one big area, right? You've got, you said how many people, how many coaches?
23 right now. We have 6 on the sales team, got 7 coaches, leadership, like accounts receivable and payable. I mean, it's more of like it mirrors more so what I saw in my agency of having like an actual team that's full-time doing it. But
Totally.
I make way more money. So like it depends, but I think the time is one of them. What your offer is probably going to determine it a little bit. If you're doing something that is more like you need hands-on to help them get results, probably going to be more so to go high ticket. If it's a little lower, importance of a goal, you could probably go low ticket. The thing you said is very accurate, is like, it's not the model that's going to make or break. So if you're like, oh, I don't make any money selling a course, like switching to high ticket is not going to be the magic bullet. Like you need to figure something else out, because we did a good amount of revenue with our course. I mean, well over $100,000 a month towards the end of it. And so really in the middle was the easiest and like most lucrative period. So that's a great business. So like you can do with courses. With membership, we did it for like 2 months. And the reason we pivoted out of it, I had just, I'd been selling a course for so long. I finally like had the strength to just pivot business models, right? So I was like, okay, I have a good friend who makes a few $1 million a year from his low ticket, like $27 a month thing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try it, right? I've been pretty stagnant for a while at pretty good revenue, but like still stagnant, and you'd always want more. Everybody knows that in business. And so I was like, I'll go to that. And I pivoted, and I realized it was probably going to just make us about the same amount as we were making before. I was like, well, since we're in pivot season, I'll just go to high ticket, and worked for our business, but it's a different animal than a course business.
So you talk about how even in high ticket, there's 2 routes you can go. And this is something that I found as well. And it's a big concern for a lot of people when they consider going high ticket, is they think, again, on this graph, you talk about time investment, right? It does require, I think, a lot more hands-on time. Even if you structure it the way that you have, where you've got more coaches kind of working with you, it is always going to require more hands-on coaching, mentorship, managing people, managing expectations, trying to get results. And the good part about that, again, according to this graph, is that people get a lot better results. Like, because of how involved you are as the expert, or your vetted experts and coaches below you, people just get better results. They're more accountable. They just get more supports. It's just a better overall model. You can offer a lot more. But in terms of like how do you structure your team, Eli, there's kind of two lines of thought, I guess. It's like you are the coach and you're kind of a one-man band and you're literally selling your time. It's like, hey, I am the expert, and so you're going to pay me 5, 10, 15, 20K, and I'm going to coach you for X amount of months, and we're going to get this result for you. And in that regard, you're very much trading time for money, but you're making a lot of money. And so it may be worth it to you, and that's the lifestyle that you want. The other side is, hey, I want to get this really big, and I cannot scale this if I am the expert and the bottleneck of the business. And so I'm going to hire 5, 10, 15, as big as you go, right? Coaches underneath me, and they're going to be vetted by me. They're on my team, I manage them, I help them, and they're the ones that kind of do the grunt work of helping people, coaching them, giving them support every single day. And that's kind of the model you've gone after. And what talk to me about like the cost of what does it cost to run that team? Is it worth it? Should I just do it by myself, take all the profit and exchange my time for money? Should I go the managing side of things and get more coaches below me? But if I do that, how do you structure the costs and actually pay your coaches to make that model worth it for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing about high ticket, like you said, you're charging more so that you can do more. I think a lot of high ticket businesses start with you being the coach. So I had it a little different. I had a small team when we initially had the course. And so those 3 people on my team had the ability to start the coaching. So I was fortunate when I launched it to not have to be doing the coaching myself, but it still required what is now our leadership team to be coaching every day. I think it's like any business, right? It's a lot of people when they're at that point of being solo, they don't feel like it's possible to hire someone to do what they do. And that's just limiting belief every time. So with our business, it started out with Kenny, Aaron, and Jared, who are now our leadership team coaching. And then we brought on coaches that, we've done 2 different things. We've hired people that had real estate media businesses, and we've hired people that were trained coaches. That's what they like to do. Honestly, not a lot of difference in the success either one. It's more about how you train them once they come into your business. So we took the time to teach, what we do to those coaches. We have a great framework for a checklist that students follow and different things like that. So for me, I mean, I'm willing to work hard to grow a big business, and I'm willing to use my time on that, but I want to grow a big business, and the more your time is used, it's harder to grow the business. So I don't know if that makes sense, but what I'm basically saying is you can't bottleneck yourself into being the only one if you want to grow. So buying your time back is actually how you grow. So yeah, I mean, we have a team of 7 coaches now besides the leadership team. Is that true? Yeah, 7. Besides the leadership team, 3 of them have real estate media experience. The other 4 don't. And our clients love them. Our clients are getting results. And I think it similarly scales to how you scale a course. Is like you have this core curriculum. So in our case, it's a checklist that is a mixture of learning and doing. And so our coaches really just come alongside them, meet with them one-on-one. There's group calls, and they work them through that checklist. With us, we have the advantage of every real estate media company is basically the same. And so there is kind of like we can reverse engineer it and build it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's like scaling any business. You just have to train people to do what you do. You have to realize that you're not special. You may have more experience than them, and that makes you feel special. But like everything, I mean, the thing I always go back to with whether I'm coaching someone on this or I'm running my own business is like, if a neurosurgeon can be trained, I promise someone can be trained to coach someone on how to start a real estate photo business, right? Like anything can be trained because all of us learn somehow. And that's, I think, the thing that stemmed it. But yeah, I mean, now I have more of my time back than I did. It's just there's always going to be like a period when you're building something new that you're like really hands-on.
Okay, so I find coaches, let's say they're actually existing students, which I'm sure you would agree that's one of the best places to start. Is I think like Kenny, for example, he was one of your students of the course.
Sort of. He started video editing for us.
Cool.
And crushed that side. So indirectly in the same industry. Yeah.
So sometimes your best coaches just become people who were once your pupils, your students, and they're like, hey, I love you. I'd love to work with you. And they become your coaches. But I think what's on a lot of people's minds is, okay, I get coaches. How do I pay them? How are you currently structuring the pay of that? Are you giving them equity? Are you paying them per hour? Is it per student that they help and they kind of get a commission on each student? Talking about the pricing structure there of how the cost.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of ways to do it. We just pay a salary. So depends on the coach and their experience, somewhere between 50 and 100 grand a year. And they work with us. They get some bonuses on renewals, and they're KPI'd on like positive reviews and successful client outcomes. Like, I think incentive is really important in business. So they have a salary, but then they have ways to, if they crush and do a really good job for their student, they get more. But we've just gone the salary route. I think it's a good way to build a business. And one thing that was like, wow, so if someone's making like 15K a month in revenue in their real estate media business and they're taking home 12K, like why would they want to work for 8K a month? And I just, because of that belief, I didn't look at our existing students first. And I was talking to a friend of mine, why it's important to be in groups, listen to things like this and have people that are building stuff alongside you. But he was like, I think you're just thinking for them. Like I could see a lot of reasons someone would want to work for you instead of be their own business owner, right? It's like, well, maybe they want to be remote and have location freedom, and they can't do that with their real estate media business. Or maybe they've just learned a lot from you and they're excited to give back and work with other people. Or maybe their business runs by itself. Like one of our coaches we're starting onboarding Monday has a business that does over 300K a year and runs by itself. And he's like, I want to be home with my new kid. This sounds like a perfect way to supplement my income. So yeah, I mean, people from our community have been great. We've hired outside coaches, have a great team. It's really just more about you compensate them well, obviously. Like the better you compensate, I think the better the team you're generally going to get. But just giving people opportunities, giving them ways to win is important. So that's how we do it.
What would you say your profit margins are right now? If you do, let's say, call it $3 million a year from the high ticket space, after, let's not include like marketing costs and stuff like that, but just hard costs of like having the coaches to deliver the service and actually be able to sell it and have it managed to where you're not having to do everything. What are we looking at in terms of profits on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, backing it up from like the entire P&L, which is about 50% right now, about 50% of that flows to the bottom line. We have a pretty healthy profit sharing thing with our leadership team. So that's after paying them. So it's like 50%, 40 to 50, depending on the month. And then if you look at the business from so last month was 335 collected on 331 collected on 535 contracted. So high ticket, you sell a $10,000 whatever dollar program. You're not going to necessarily collect all of that up front. Some students are on payment plans. So 500K in new business and then 331 in actual revenue. So that's what we're talking about, the 331 that was collected. Of that, about half will be profit, maybe 40%. Sales team is going to take 12 to 15% if you include setters, closers. We can talk about that if you want. The coaching side of it probably takes another 5 to 10%. But then you have there's a lot of other expenses too. So it's the coach doesn't take a lot of it, but then there's, I have a content team and I have accounts receivable and payable and we have assistants on our team and I have my leaders. So there's other costs. But I'd say the biggest line item would be probably the sales team because we're organically driven. We don't spend a lot on
Perfect. Okay, this is all great. This is helping people to understand what goes into the high ticket space. We spent a lot of time talking about the model and how that differs from your low ticket. Let's now kind of shift and talk about the low to mid ticket and the pros and the cons of that, right? You've obviously shifted. You're making a lot more total revenue, total money, cash collected with the high ticket space. The margins are obviously different because you've got a team. You're growing really fast with the high ticket, which again is maybe it took a while to ramp up to make the same amount of profit that you were making with the course side of things. But it sounds like it's obviously overtaking it now because you're pretty much focusing all your time and attention on it. Let's say that you were to, though, Eli, focus on just the low and mid ticket side of things that was doing 100K months, right? And the profit margins are obviously a lot higher, I would assume, because you don't have
percentage-wise,
overhead.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, percentage-wise, right? Total profit, obviously not as much, but if you were to go all in on the lower or mid ticket, it would still be growing, right? I think that's kind of the thing that people misunderstand as well. It's whatever you put your time and energy into will grow, right? But if you were to focus on the low and mid ticket, what would be the main differences between those two models? Just, what was the low ticket, the pros of the low mid ticket space that you liked a lot?
Yeah, I mean, much smaller team. You could run a 100K a month business basically by yourself. I mean, you could do it by yourself, right? You're probably not going to want to because it's cheap to bring in contractors and have vendors for copywriting and other stuff. So much simpler business. You don't have a lot of the headaches of management. You can pivot a lot faster. You have more control over your time in the sense that you're not when you have a team or you're coaching, doesn't matter which one, you're kind of there when people need you and there's just more moving parts. So yeah, I mean, right now we have it's a smaller percentage in profit of a bigger pie, so overall the profit is higher. My business was way simpler as a low ticket course seller, and so I think that's the primary benefit, frankly, is simplicity and potentially especially early on in high ticket, you have more control of your time with the low ticket. It's also a good testing ground, I don't think we would have been. I don't think our high ticket would be growing as fast as it was if we just started with high ticket in 2019 when we started. We learned so much with that course and we could adjust so fast and get a lot of volume through it. That's a difference right there, kind of along the same tone. Last month, big month for us. our second biggest month of all time, 50 new students. So like not that many, right? But those 50, we have a deep responsibility to. Like we have to, deliver on our promises. There's a whole team that has to onboard them, do that stuff. Before, I mean, it could be like hundreds of course sales in a busy month, right? Like Black Friday or something like that. Like, so it's a very different level of volume.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, that's the difference is that as I see them at least.
I'd say there's also a difference in the quality of the customer, right? Obviously, when you charge a higher ticket price, generally speaking, you're going to get a higher caliber customer who's just a lot more fun to work with. They're not nearly as entitled or, whiny, you could call it, right? We all know those customers who just take a ton out of us, and you're going to get a lot more of those with a low ticket course,
with low
right?
ticket, way more. Yeah.
But again, the benefit is like, okay, but the trade-off is with less clients, less higher quality clients, you have to give a lot more service to. You have a lot more responsibility. The lower ticket, it's like, look, you guys joined, you didn't pay that much, and so like you're gonna get the course. There's some elements maybe of support, some community that you get, great, but for the most part, like don't really talk to me, right? I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
I'm not gonna hold your hand.
Deliver the product, you give them the course, and it's like that's it, right? And then when you're in high ticket, like the second they give you the money, the work begins. You're not done. Like we have, it's the real difference is you still have like sales and marketing stuff in both businesses. You just don't have an entire fulfillment department in low ticket. So like we have a whole team dedicated to that, right? All those coaches, Aaron, who's our director of coaching, support team, like it's a lot more. And so it's just a different animal. I mean, it's a very different business model. And I do think though, like one of the things we've been talking, like a good idea, if you're selling a course right now, don't go pivot to high ticket because you hear anybody say you got to be in high ticket. Like, if you're struggling to sell the course, figure that out first because it's not going to be easier in high ticket.
Totally.
Once you figure it out though, I think it's almost as easy to sell a $1,000 course as it is to sell a $12,000 course. Like when you actually have the prospect, if both work. But
so let's talk about that. That's another limiting belief that a lot of people have, right? Is like, okay, no one's going to pay me $5,000. Like people think $2,000 is wild. They're like, oh my gosh, I used to never sell anything for $2,000, right? And you're now selling. What's your highest package?
$24,800.
$24,800. Those of you watching, that probably sounds unethical, crazy. How could you charge that amount? There's no way you're scamming people. You have to be, And it's a literally a mindset thing that people don't understand what you can charge for. But let's talk about that and how the pricing of that also changes the way that you market this thing and get people to buy, right? Because with the low ticket, if you're selling this for $500, people can buy that automated, right? Send them to a landing page, they go to a checkout page, and they buy. I'm assuming you're not sending people to a $25,000 checkout page and saying, hey, let me know if this all works for you. And
if you could do that, people would do it. You can't do that. Like nobody will buy. And I will say, just so everybody is clear on like where exactly we're at, our average price point is around $12,000. And so it's not like we're just selling $24,800. Like that's a very specific business. It's already an in-business scaled real estate media company that needs help team building is typically what it is. So it's like a little higher value because we're helping them, take their business from 150, 200, 250K a year to as big as they are able to get it. And so, talking more of the average price point, right? Someone coming into our program that wants to be a real estate photographer that currently makes $0 a month in real estate photography, we just raised our prices a little bit, but they're going to pay around $12,000 for that. And so it's like, okay, where's the value in that? I mean, we have a guarantee and there's like details on it. They have to actually do stuff to be eligible for the guarantee, but it's not gotcha stuff. I don't believe in that, right? It's like very clear. The sales team walks it through with them every time. If they do that stuff and they don't have a month that's at least $4,000 on the low end, there's different price points for different guarantees. They get all their money back or a portion of it, depending on what price point they came in at. So it's like, we have a lot of responsibility to deliver on that. And so it's like, okay, paying $12K for a business that's doing $4K a month is an awesome deal. So it's just about reframing it. I used to think it would be impossible to charge $12K. Now, like you said, Stockton, we get a lot better client quality. We get people who are more serious, and it's a compounding cycles. Like you get higher quality people that have figured out how to save up. There's my balloon triggers going off. That have figured out how to save up the money. So that's just like a testament to itself about that person. And then when they join the program, if they're going to pay $12,000, they're more serious and they get better results. So our reviews, our case studies get better, and then more people are interested. And it's just like this cycle that works in the right direction. So yeah, I mean, it's just a mental thing. It's a limiting belief. I used to think $1,000 was crazy, and we tried to scale by just lowering our price over and over, which was like the goofiest way to scale. But yeah, I mean, it's almost easier to sell 12,000. You get to talk to them. You get them on the phone. What are you trying to do? Here's what we do. And if they come in saying they want to make 20 grand next month, sorry, we can't help you. Like we don't say yes to everybody, right? But we get that choice.
Right. This is a testament of, if you want to charge higher prices, you have to be able to actually justify it and get them the results. And if you're not, it's a reflection of your products. It's your offer. It's not working very well. And so, again, how much money you can make is almost always in direct correlation with how good your product is.
Yeah,
it's just
how
hard
much
to sell
value you
products
bring.
where you're not getting people results. And so you have to at some point be focusing on that. And okay, if I want to build a good product and a good offer, I have to have a very good structure, a good system. And in Eli's case, he has a checklist. And you've developed kind of that framework of like, look, this is what it takes to do this. We've had hundreds of people go through this and build big businesses by following this beautiful framework and structure. And if it's proven to work, it's repeatable, and it's strong, then you can back it up with a really ballsy offer of like, look, we'll give you your money back if you don't make $4K a month with this. And in that case, it's a no-brainer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the next question people are going to have then, Eli, is, okay, well, if you're offering that strong of a guarantee, you must have really high refund rates. There's no way that you get, everybody, 100% of people aren't going to be hitting that. And so you must be refunding a ton of people, because you must get people who join and they try it out, it doesn't work, hey, give me my money back. Maybe talk about that and that limiting belief and that big concern people have.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get refunds, right? Like, that's part of the promise. If you're making a promise, then it's not true. Like, if they don't get the result, you got to give them their money back. But it's your job to make sure they get the result, right? And it's your job to structure the program in a way that does that. So let's say we're looking at someone who has a 4K guarantee, and you have to be careful with guarantees, right? So like, we can't guarantee anybody makes 4K. I can't say for sure. What I can do is I can guarantee you what I will do if you don't. And so that's what our guarantee is. It's my promise if they don't get there. And so does everybody get there? No. Do the people who do the work get there? Yeah. And that's why we have those clauses in there. It's really simple and straightforward. You don't want to get people with fine print. First of all, it's borderline illegal. But second of all, like, just run an ethical business if you want to run a long-term business. So it's not magic, right? Here's the work you have to do. Our checklist is choreographed every week for the 26 weeks, which is the 6-month program. It gives them tasks every week. And we've reverse engineered the number of stuff they're going to have to do to get them to a higher number. So it's like, okay, if we want to guarantee someone 4K, what actions would they have to take to get to 8? And then let's make that what they have to do, because then there's no way they fail, right? Or no reasonable way. So you're going to have refunds, but I mean, it should never, in my opinion, be anywhere near 10%. It's kind of the same almost with courses. Like, you're going to have people refund, and the way I look at it is I don't even like go by the specifics of what's in there. Like, if someone doesn't get the result, they get their money. That's not why I'm in business. I'm not in the business to collect the money if they don't get the result. And so like, our whole team is oriented around, let's just get them the result and not worry about all that small stuff, right? Let's get them the result. They don't get the result, money back. And if they just like don't do anything, they're not going to get their money back. But we work with them still, and we're accommodating. I think that's the biggest thing is like, as far as the refunds limiting belief, you're not going to get more refunds. You're going to get less. It's a different caliber of person, provided your program's good. It's a different caliber of person. And the results rate will be higher significantly in high ticket. Just for example, we don't have like specific data for the course because we don't know anything about them. Like, we hear the wins, but we don't hear everything. I guess, my guess is 15% did anything, 20% did anything with it. It doesn't mean they were unhappy. They just like did it. It was cool. And like, they never made a business, but that's kind of like a low rate with a course. With high ticket, I mean, it's much higher than that. It's probably 15, 20% of people don't do something with it. Because when you pay 10 grand, you do something, you take action, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a big distinction, is just the success rates of it. If you have,
So that's a great topic to talk about as well, is, okay, so course creation, course completion rates are in the dumps. Nobody finishes courses. So don't make a course. It's dead, is a common thing I hear nowadays. And saying courses are dead is like saying education is dead. It's like, education's dying. It's like, dude, it's been around for thousands of years. It's always going to be valuable. Yeah, how you deliver it will change a little bit. But you mentioned something really important earlier in the call, is that the course is your foundation. Like, that's your curriculum. You have a curriculum, you have your checklist, and that checklist, I'm assuming, Eli, has course content that you filmed. So maybe we can talk about, it's not that, okay, courses completion rates aren't as high, which is true, right? It's obviously the facts. But does that mean that, okay, just trade your time for money and only coach? Or does it mean that, hey, you should still have a place where people can go and have a structure to follow? Because in my opinion, otherwise, you're literally saying the same things to every single person on repeat. You're like a broken record. And it's like, oh my heck, can I just record this once and have it filmed, so that instead of me saying it on a live call and wasting time on the clock, can I just tell the person, hey, go watch this 10-minute video. I nailed it on the head on that video, and you're going to get exactly the same amount of value as you would if it was live on a call with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people, they hear coaching and they think it's just getting on a Zoom call and figuring it out. So our course, we've updated a lot of it and made it more in detail, but our course was the foundation of coaching. So when we say like we have a coaching offer, the reason we've been able to scale and hire other coaches is because there's just this proven format. So we come behind them as coaches and make sure that they go through that. So yeah, our initial course, at least the material in there, has been refilmed and put in a framework that tells them what order to do things. And then we give them action steps as well. So someone could go through what we have now and it would be like an awesome course that's a lot more in-depth than your average course. We just also add coaching one-on-one on Zoom calls and in a private Slack channel. And then we add group calls, and then we add, groups where their peers are meeting up. So it's like, it's still the base of any good coaching program is going to be some sort of pre-filmed course material, in my opinion, right? Just the coach is there to be like, what are you doing? Like, where are you're stuck, or why have you not done this in a week? Or let's make a plan to make next week not suck like last week. So it's accountability. And there's people get stuck on things in courses. You go through and you don't understand a lesson, and if it's just a course, you don't know you don't have the ability to ask as much, and so like that's the difference. But it still starts with a good course. Courses are not dead. A course is the foundation of our high ticket business, right? It's this is the material. Now let's focus on executing that material.
Yeah, there's so much fun stuff you can do to build and expound upon a course once you have one. If you don't have anything there, again, it's just like you
gotta start with
kind
it.
You're kind of just like, how do you say it? You're just kind of going with the flow and just kind of, there's no structure. And that's a big part of selling high ticket as well, is people need to know, like, do you know what you're doing? Like, where are we going?
Yeah.
How do these next 6 months look? What am I supposed to learn? Do you have like a structure? And it's like, yeah, I got it. It's in my head. Like, I'll coach you. You're fine. It's like, that's not good. That you're not going to get results there. It's going to be disorganized. It's going to be all over the place. That's going to impact how much results you can get for somebody. Yeah, and so when you're able to give them that foundational piece, it gives them that structure of, hey, while we're in between these coaching calls, please go through that content, learn it all. And then the coaching becomes that necessary and supplemental piece of like, I'm going to keep you accountable. I'm going to answer any questions that you have now. But the education's inside the course. So go through that and you'll make much quicker progress.
Yeah, and that's probably some of the difference between when someone says I have a coaching business, there's a vast difference in different coaching businesses, right? So the person who gets stuck as a coach, right? Like they probably don't have a framework. They probably are missing the course and they don't have those other elements. And so what you're saying is really important and probably like a misunderstanding. We have a course, we have a bunch of Monday.com boards that they fill out, assets that we've created, like a CRM for them and that kind of stuff. We have group calls, we have one-on-one calls. So like there's a bunch that goes into it. It's not just jump on a Zoom and figure it out. At least in my opinion, if you want to do it well, that's what it needs to look like.
So acquisition-wise, man, you spent about $1.5 million on ads in the low-ticket days, yeah?
Yeah, slightly under, like 1.23, somewhere in that range.
Cool. And that was mostly Facebook ads or YouTube ads as well?
Yeah, it was almost all Facebook ads, like 50, somewhere between 50 and 100 on YouTube ads.
Cool. So client acquisition-wise, right? Let's start with the low-ticket space first. Ads were a huge driver for sales for you. And
the whole business, they were everything. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So ads was everything. That was your whole traffic generation and client acquisition method. You spent money to make money on the ad fronts. And the sales process would look like what? Was it a webinar? Was it a lead magnet that you were giving away? Was it a low ticket offer? How were you actually getting people to buy? Was it email nurture sequences? What were you doing?
Yeah, so primarily driven by a workshop, a webinar. They would sign up to watch that, and then there'd be an automatic email sequence that triggered them after that, sent them more emails. We'd run sales and different stuff like that, but pretty simple, like standard. I mean, that's where I got it from you guys, right? So like I did the full-time filmmaker model, ran a workshop, and I know you guys have done low ticket and other stuff, but we didn't. It was just straight to a workshop webinar.
Okay. So that was your acquisition model there with the low ticket space. And now with the high ticket, let's talk about this because this is really interesting. You kind of shifted the way a little bit that I thought about this, and I haven't actually gone into it for a number of reasons that I'll kind of bring up here. But with the high ticket space, obviously you've got people closing entirely through sales calls. Is that right?
Yeah. So we still run a webinar actually, or workshop we call it, because that's a photography term generally it's used. So like they go in that. The difference is it's not this workshop that leads up to this like huge pitch, which I mean, that works. I don't really like it as much. So like our workshop now is just like, hey, here's what we're going to teach. By the way, if you want to work with the team, you can grab a call below, but like, that's not what this is about. And then we just teach and then we remind them again. So it's like a webinar minus like all those pitch slides. But yeah, they fill out a quick application because we have to make sure that they're like, we can't help somebody in Finland, for example, because the market doesn't work the same there. And so there's a few countries we serve. They have to be one of those, and they have to like, I can't help someone that wants to make 20 grand a month in 3 minutes. Like that's not my business model. And so we learn a little bit about them, and then their application is scored and it directs them to either a setter on our sales team, which does like a pre-qualification, or directly to a closer, an enrollment specialist, we call them. And then that person, the thing with high ticket is that you actually do want to make sure they're a good fit, right? Because you have to work with them. And so that person makes sure that, for our offer, it takes work. Ours isn't a magic thing. I don't think many are, at least the real ones. So ours is, we have to make sure they have at least 15 hours a week. We have to make sure they're in an area with enough population. And so they go through that sales call to make sure that the prospect is qualified. If they're qualified, then they offer them our program and walk them through what that looks like, help them get funding for it if they don't have the cash up front, different stuff like that. But yeah, it's all through a sales call. There's no automatic checkouts done. Everybody's
awesome. So again, another big difference between low ticket and high ticket. If you're considering which route to go, low ticket, you have to go out and spend money on ads, do big organic, and it's more automated, more hands off. You've got a webinar or a lead magnet of some sort that can sell people. Whereas the high ticket space, you are going to be almost always having a sales team. So somebody setting the appointments and somebody closing the appointments, actually hopping on a call, oftentimes a Zoom call, and you're pitching them, and then you have to pay that rep a commission. So. And right now, Eli, you are not so much spending money on ads. You're almost all organic right now, is what you said with the high ticket space. And then the costs, instead of paying 1.2 million in ads, a big chunk of that advertising cost is now more so going into the sales commission cost of they're the ones who are working the leads, selling the leads. And so it's just a redistribution of what that money was used for the low ticket model to now the high ticket. What are you paying your sales reps right now in terms of like a commission structure?
Yeah. So I like to keep things pretty simple. 10% on cash collected. So they get 10% of every deal right off the top. There's some bonuses. So if they hit certain milestones, like cash collected amounts in a month, they get a little bit more. And then setters are getting $250 per closed set. So overall, we're paying 15-ish% on an average month of top line revenue to the sales team. I like to do a lot of like random bonuses, so it probably amps that up by a couple of percentage every month, but I would argue that makes more sales. So yeah, I mean, 20% or below is probably going to go to your sales team. Somewhere between 15 and 20 typically is what I see with other people that I know in this, and similar with my business.
Yeah. And that's to be expected, just so you guys are aware. I mean, maybe somebody think that's so high. Why would you ever do that? It's like, it has to go. I mean, you have to acquire customers somehow, whether that 20% goes to ads or whether it goes to a sales rep. Like, it costs money to acquire customers, to work them, to sell them. I will say that sales reps is one of the strongest ways to sell somebody. Like, everyone wants to automate. Everybody wants to send people to just a video and then buy my stuff.
Yeah, it's
and
nice.
I do, to a degree, I think that will always work. It's a spectrum for sure. But like, what will always work is hopping on a phone call with somebody. It's just the easiest way to sell. You hear their objections live on the call. You can work through them. You can show some, testimonials, some case studies. You can hear what they want to hear and customize the message to that one person. Whereas with an automated webinar or video or just an automated sales process, you have to have done enough of those one-on-one calls to kind of guess what everyone's objections are going to be. And you get a good enough picture that you say, okay, this is good enough. I've got a grasp on it. I'm going to try to automate it and try to answer all their questions on this automated version. And that can work really well. It killed it for us. It killed it for Eli, right? But just know that like sales is going to be always a really, really reliable way to generate revenue. And why I think that every course creator, every coach, you have to be a good sales rep yourself and learn how to offer your thing and ask somebody, hey, would you like to buy this? Can I have your money in exchange for this offer? And if you can't do that and it's scary or you're embarrassed or you're nervous, why would you be able to do that on a automated presentation? Like, nothing changes.
That's absolutely true. And just for everybody that felt the scaredness, like, I hated the idea of sales when I was first starting my business because I didn't understand it. Like sales is only what you think of it as being bad if you're not selling a good product. So for me, I never considered myself like a salesy person. I don't push people. I just like to build a good product and then tell them about it. And so you don't have to be like a snake to do this, right? You just do need to learn, and like that is a part of it, whether it's in a webinar, whether it's in a pre-recorded video, live webinar, or a sales call. Like selling does go into it, and just learning. Really, you just learn what people want, and then you explain to them how you solve that. And that's what good selling is. It's not like you have to buy this, or it's gimmicks and all this stuff. Like that's not what sales is. But I think one thing you said is like a pretty important. It does go back to the business model you want. So like if you want to have sales reps, you have to manage a team of sales reps. But if that's your goal and you like want the biggest business possible, and I would argue like probably going to happen in high ticket, but there are some great memberships as well. So it really is about what you want. Do you want more automated business? Do you want a business with a bigger team? Like there's no right answer. You have to decide that. You just don't want to let someone sell you into thinking there's only one way. And that's like we were chatting about before, Stockton, like kind of a shame when people do that because they want to sell you something, right? You can do it anyway. You just got to decide.
Yeah, just understand the marketing tactic, right? I use it sometimes within reason. I don't, obviously when you market, you really should not be confusing people, but sometimes you guys hear those messages of, hey, this is dead, or this is the only thing that works. And sometimes, most of the time, marketers are being really extreme when they use that language. And so people consume that content and they take that to believe that, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I have to go high ticket. It's like, maybe not. Do you know what goes into high ticket? If you don't jump into it because Joe Schmo, the marketing guru with a Lamborghini in the background, said it's the only way to go. So, which I think it's great for people to hear that. And some people, to be fair, don't want to grow past 100K a month. They're like, dude, if I could make 20K
which is
a month
great.
take home,
yeah, they're happy. And it's like if you when someone's telling out, like you said, Stockton, like they're trying to sell you on something. If somebody in your industry or even remotely has a business that is doing low ticket, that is doing more than you want to do or at what you want to do, it's possible, right? So like my guess is most people listening to this, there is a business doing each of these models in a somewhat close industry that is doing the kind of numbers you want to do. So it's not about the model, it's about the execution of that. And I think one of the bigger mistakes, and I would imagine you see this a lot, Stockton, is like people just jumping between model and being like, it's not working, nothing's working. It's like, yeah, because the model wasn't the problem, right? It's learning how to talk to your prospects, figuring out who your audience is, building a product that helps them and has interest to them. Like there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, oh, should I go high ticket? Should I do mid ticket?
Totally.
One factor.
So let's talk about one more part of the high ticket space, and then we'll kind of talk about some different, tactics, maybe marketing tactics that you're using. I know you said you're mostly organic with high ticket, and then we'll maybe talk about this middle hybrid model that I'm using right now, finding success with as kind of a third solution. But the last part of high ticket, man, is you kind of found a little secret, a little nugget that I've never heard about, which seems really obvious, but you kind of structured and changed the way that people are paying for the high ticket. It's not a $12,500 or $24,000 upfront payments. I'm paying you everything up front. Obviously, if that was happening and everyone could do that, that'd be great. But tell everyone how you are currently, what I guess really took the business off in terms of how you are allowing people to pay for the high ticket program.
Yeah, I mean, just like any, bigger purchase, some people go in and buy the car cash, other people finance it and have a monthly payment. And so, a good majority of our clients do pay up front. Typically works out better for them. They're not like, oh, I have to make this payment. And they're probably just more qualified candidates in the first place if they're paying up front. But yeah, good portion pay up front. We have third-party financing companies, just like a car dealership would, where you can finance. Elective is one of the big ones we use. It's hard to get into, but that's out there. A lot of people have probably heard of Affirm. So through a third party called Copecart, we finance some of our deals through Affirm. And then we do in-house financing as well. It's a 6-month program. We allow people to pay it off in 6 months. One payment at a time. And so kind of depends on the prospect. Obviously, like for the health of the business, you have to collect a certain amount up front. And so we always go for that first. But yeah, I mean, it's about like, that's why I said like cash contracted versus cash collected, right? Last month, 535 contracted. That doesn't mean we got 535,000. We got 331,000 of that. And the rest will come in the following months. And so it's just about giving your clients options. Not everybody can afford it up front, and doesn't mean they're not able to do the program. Makes it a lot more accessible.
So in the past, and maybe you've changed this since, Eli, let me know, but when we talked at one point, I can't remember which one you were working with, if it was Affirm or Elect or whatever it was, but you had a version where, it's, let's call it a $10,000 program, and the monthly payment was like as low as whatever it was, like $100 or $200.
Few $100, yeah.
And that was spread over however many years it takes them to do it or whatever. And then, if they go longer than 3 years or something, then the monthly rate kind of increases. Is that something you're still doing right now, or did that change?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that anybody who goes with any sort of high ticket financing will learn, the companies come and go, and they're usually just like the front end for a bigger lending institution. So like that specific company, we don't lend through anymore. They close down. Rates change, banks drop their approval, whatever. But we have a similar one now. So a firm lets them finance it out 36 months. The like shorter the term, the less interest they'll pay, not just like percentage wise, but like actually it'll sometimes be 0% interest, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things. 36 months on a $10,000 program is like $300-400 a month. It's not bad.
And you would say, like, was that a good shift? Like, having done it now for over a year, was that a good route to go? Were there some things that you learned? Like my initial concern about that is like, well, I don't want to get people in on a 2 or 3 year contract. A part of it is also like, I don't believe in going in the debt for things, which is kind of a personal thing that I have. But at the same time, it's like when you as the expert are seeing that, like, well, they go in the debt, but then they're immediately making it back, or this percentage of people are making back the money in 3 months, 4 months, whatever, that can be very encouraging. But my concern is like, well, I don't want somebody to be paying debts to me for 10 years if they end up going AWOL. And it's like, well, shoot, now this person owes me money for 10 years and they can't feed their family. It's like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think, for me, running a business that does things ethically is important. I wouldn't feel comfortable running my business, period, no matter how they were paying if they didn't get results. Does it mean everybody gets results? No, right? But I want to have like a high degree of confidence and a safety net for them if they don't. But other than that, I mean, it's personal preference. A lot of people don't want to do that, and I understand that. I've used debt in my life to do things. It's risky, always, right? And so it depends on what they're looking for. But yeah, I mean, it all comes back to like, if you don't get people results, I would feel very uncomfortable with someone getting a loan. Doesn't mean people don't do it. I mean, there are a lot of bad businesses out there, but that's how I look at it. We give them the options, and then they get to decide what's right for them. But also, like I said, I don't know if this was before when we were live, I'm pretty, with refunds, that's if they didn't get the result and they can't work, like they're not struggling to feed their family, like we're giving them their money back.
Yeah, well, I think that's an important part, because some people, they destroy their reputation because they insist on keeping the customer's money.
It's
and like
stupid.
our philosophy,
Yeah.
right? We have forever, for 8 years now, like the damage that an angry customer does who doesn't get a refund because you're insisting on keeping it does 10x the damage that a good customer does positive for your business. 10 good customers can do.
It's so funny how many businesses don't realize that. That's how I've done it too. And I saw your guys' model, and like just me, like I don't enjoy angry people. That's not why I got in business. I don't want to do it. Like, so if here's your money, like I don't take your money, right? Go enjoy it somewhere else. And so it's very funny. There's a lot of people that are just, to me, it's pretty short-sighted. Like, I don't know who, like, independent of them being angry, I don't want, like, and leaving a bad review, whatever. Like, for me, I don't want their money if it wasn't right for them, right? Like, that's not why I got into business. And, maybe people have different beliefs on that. But it's like, also, if you act like that, you grow a better business long term. Because you're saying, okay, if someone doesn't get the result, I don't get their money. You're going, how do I make more people get results? And then if you're thinking in that way, you're like, how do I make people more successful? Your business grows more than it ever would by keeping that money from the client that wasn't happy. And so it's just like, selfishly, your business is better if you don't do that, in my opinion.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. Mm-hmm. So I guess to wrap this up, man, I want to kind of talk about my model, a third option. A lot of you guys are now kind of trying to decide between these two options, and there's kind of a third that we have found success with, and I was really surprised at how well this worked. And again, this worked well for me. This doesn't mean this is the new way to do things, and this is working for everybody. In fact, this model, Eli tried to an extent. He may or may not have structured the same way that I did, but it didn't do as well for him. And so that's fine. He pivoted to the high ticket and he focused on that. But, again, for the market, for whatever the offer is, for the price points, you have to try to find which one works best for you, for your preferences, for your goals, but also for your market. And for me, in January of this year, we shifted to a hybrid model of, instead of charging higher ticket programs, you have to pay 10, 15K to even talk to me and get access to me in any way, shape, or form. And instead of just doing a DIY kind of low ticket online course under $1,000, we combine the two to where we sell a $147 per month subscription, and you get access to the course. You get access to some degrees of coaching. It's not really intensive coaching. It is, group coaching calls. It's a very intense and awesome community. But the key component that makes it really powerful for me is a software, right? So we sell our software on top of all that, and that allows me to include done for you elements, which are templates. Again, for my space, that's ginormous. Course creators want to have the best templates for funnels, for websites. If I want to run a webinar, if I want to send email nurture sequences, I don't know how to write those. I want some templates for it. Everything, people just want a business in a box, and I can provide that. But maybe you can't, Eli. Maybe somebody else can't, and that's fine. But this is the model that's working for us. It's pretty much doubled our revenue. It's doubled our close rates. Our offer is 10 times more valuable when they were sold separately, but now combining kind of all those elements together is a very, I guess you could say, popular thing happening right now. I think school.com is popularizing that style, even though I think it's been around for a long, long time. But we're finding a ton of success with, you pay a $147 per month subscription, which the recurring value in that is incredible for business, right? It's not like you get somebody to join today and they're done, and the next month you have to go find another person. That's one awesome pro of it is, we've got 6 figures a month in just recurring subscriptions coming through. And yeah, you have churn. That's the con side of subscription is you have to handle and attack and deal with people canceling each month. But it's a beautiful model to have it recurring every single month, and you're kind of giving them a mixture of all two of the models, I guess, to where they get the best of both worlds, not nearly as intensive on the high ticket, but they do get a lot of the benefits of the community and the group coaching calls, etc. What would you say, Eli, in terms of that model? You tried the membership route and it didn't really go that well. How did you structure it, and what would you say were the reasons that it wasn't really for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think any of the models, as we've talked about, can work. It wasn't so much for us that I didn't think that was going to work or wasn't working well. It was just going to be the same as what we'd been doing. And so for me, I kind of wanted to break our business out to the next level. And so I tried that for a little bit, and I just kind of saw that it was going to be even, which is great. That's a win, right? Like staying flat. Just for us, we want to try something else. I think your model, very popular. It makes a lot of sense why, for someone that's just starting, gives them some different ways to figure out what they actually want. It's been a big topic we talked about too, is what kind of business do you want? And it's hard to know until you've done it. So I think that's a good model as well. And maybe your market responds more, they agreeably to the subscription. Maybe they love high ticket and want more coaching. It's hard to know until you try. And so I like that. For me, I've tried to put a lot of focus, the last year especially, on just really simple. Because we're growing a bigger team, the more moving parts, I already have enough moving parts, right? And so the less of those I can have, the better. And that's why we've done it. We could probably make more money by doing both. I just, I don't have the brain power right now. I want to focus on what we're doing. Yeah. And I think that's important. Focus is for me, it's caused me the most mistakes. And I think we've talked a lot about successes. I feel like I've tried everything that doesn't work. We just didn't get a lot of chance to talk about that. And so I've just learned one of the things for me, I get distracted like that. And so if I'm trying a bunch of different stuff, I'm not really putting a lot of effort in one thing. And I think probably the reason why our high ticket is working for us, model aside, is because I've just finally learned 12 years into running a business that focus is really important. So that's my reason. But maybe you're smarter. Maybe and just everybody listening, maybe everybody's smarter, right? I just feel like I have a limited amount of brain power, so I need to use it for one thing.
No, it 100% it has to be that way. You have to pick one and go with it and focus on it. I will say that it is, if you're going to go the subscription route, you have to have other ways of upselling that customer, more channels to give them more stuff. And so you get the base package, but if you want more hands-on coaching, we do have the option. Having the option is important. And so my kind of end-all answer, I guess, between low ticket versus high ticket, which one? It's both. The ideal is that you have really both. You have both offers that you can offer to people. In my opinion, it creates a really well-balanced business. To your point, Eli, you have to eventually go and focus on one. You can't do high ticket really, really well and low ticket really, really well, in my opinion. But the business as a whole can be balanced. Your offer stack can be in such a way that you've kind of got something for everybody, and they can ascend up your value ladder. That's how our business is run right now, and it's growing really well. And we still have that focus, right? Of every part of the business is well managed and it's running in its own way. But I guess the ultimate conclusion for me is that you guys should be well balanced and have offers for everybody. What would you say, I guess to kind of wrap things up here, Eli, what would you say is the order of operations? Should you do it again? If I'm just getting started, right? If I go the low ticket route first, I feel like it's going to take a long time to make my course, and it's going to be selling a bunch of people at $200 each. And I don't know if I can do that very well. I don't have an audience. I don't have a following. So should I go that route first, or should I start with a high ticket, make a bunch of upfront cash, prove that it works, maybe learn the market really well, and then kind of make the course as I go from high ticket? Or like, again, you kind of started in the low ticket first and made the course and it turned out really well for you. But what would you say now in 2024 works for people just getting started?
Yeah, it's so hard. I don't want to like mislead anybody and say there's a right answer. I would say to spend some time thinking about what business you'd like to have be successful. So do you see yourself more with a course business? When we talked about that, did you get excited? Or when you hear me talk about a team and a sales team and coaching, like, did that make you more excited? I would first figure that out. And the other thing too is once you've kind of dialed that in, like, don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. Spend a lot of time trying. So test it. I mean, you have nothing to lose, right? I think a lot of people kind of sit on the sidelines because they're like, I don't know if I should do this or I don't. And like, I understand that you don't want to test it and mess up, but like, biggest thing is it really depends on what you want. And then once you kind of know that, try stuff. And just expose yourself to the most. I think the middle ground option that you're talking about, Stockton, makes a lot of sense. Gives you exposure to both, and then maybe you'll go all in on one. You know, if I had to restart again, I'd do high ticket, but I don't want to say that's the answer, right? There's benefits, but I like building a business. I like having a big team, and my future goals don't involve a one-man operation. And so for me, it's not a possibility. I can't run a course business, right? And maybe that's limited. Maybe I could have a team with a course business. It just didn't make as much sense. So I really think that I wish I would have thought more about what I wanted with every one of my businesses before I decided.
Yeah. Well, Eli, dude, I wish I could talk forever, man. Like you've got one of those brains where you just understand business so well. You've found a ton of success. Every time I talk to you, I feel like, man, if I could just had 2 more hours of your time, it'd be so fun to just, continue talking about strategy and stuff. I guess to wrap this up, man, my last question for you might seem like an obvious one, but I don't think it's so obvious because some people get into the course space and they crush it. But was it worth it, right? So I guess my question to you is, having done courses, education, coaching, how has it changed your life? Like, what's your lifestyle right now, and was it worth it? Because making money is not everything, and you can make a ton of money and just like, oh man, I made tons of money, but freak, I would never do it again, and I regret it, and whatever. Yeah. But how has your life changed? What's the end outcome of selling a course successfully? And would you say, in full honesty, was it worth it, and would you do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I'd do it again. It was worth it. I will say, we joke about this on our team a lot. It's like, if I would have known all the things I would have had to do from day one, I would have been probably a little bit more discouraged. Because like, when you're starting out, like, you have no idea what you're gonna have to do, and I actually think that's an asset to you. So like, yeah, there's a lot of ridiculous stuff we've had to deal with, things we've had to learn, mistakes we've had to make. It was worth it. I mean, I think, generally I'm happy about how it's turned out. I really kind of feel like I did sacrifice the last decade working on my businesses, but now I have a great lifestyle and I have my time back. I make a lot more money than I ever expected. And like you said, I mean, money doesn't solve everything, but it does solve a lot of money problems. And so, yeah, I mean, worth it. But I don't think anybody, like, nobody that starts a business and is successful is like, man, it was easy. But they also are glad that it wasn't easy. And so I feel like I've learned a lot. It's been a fun journey. And so, yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's like, I get bored easily. I like having something to do. And so for me, it's the ultimate unending challenge. So, yeah.
Love it. Well, Eli, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. I'll let you go. And it's Friday night for Eli, guys. So really appreciate you hopping on, dude. You're a stud.
6:30 a.m. for you, Stockton. So good morning.
Yeah, over in Japan. No, you're good. But I appreciate you, man. You are a stud, and I'm excited to see you continue to grow this business. And we'll continue to keep in touch, man.
Absolutely. Good chat.